Hello and welcome to I Know That Voice, a podcast about voice actors and voice acting. I'm Keith Wickham, I'm a voice actor, have been for 30 years. You'll know me best probably as Sir Topham Hatt from Thomas and Friends, as well as Gordon, Henry, Edward and various other engines in the show. I'm also Professor Inkling and Shellington in the Octonauts, and I was a koala brother, I was Cornel and Watch My Chops, I was in 64 Zoo Lane, I was also Change Daily in The Secret Show. I thought it'd be nice to talk to my fellow voice artists about their profession. These are people whose voices you will know, but who could still go to the supermarket without being mobbed. My guest in this edition is a very familiar voice indeed to those of you who listen to the radio. It's Tim Bentinck, who plays David Archer in The Archers and has done for 43 years. He's also Mind the Gap on the Underground for a while, and he's done hundreds of video games and TV commercials, you name it. It's a very wide-ranging, very interesting conversation. I have to apologise slightly for the sound quality because Tim wasn't in his normal booth. He was in a room and he was using a speaker for my voice. So I've had to fiddle with the edit quite a bit, I'm afraid. But nevertheless, he's very clear. So sit back and enjoy my conversation with Tim Bentinck, MBE. So, hello, Tim Bentinck.
Hello, Keith Wickham.
How are you?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right.
Good. Okay, so just to click into this, just to start, a basic sort of idea of how you got into it.
Yeah, sure. Well, I went to university not knowing what to do, so I did history of art simply because I wasn't going to be a scientist. And I did history of art for 3 years, and I don't remember a single thing about anything. All those, the quiz questions come up, and everyone turns to me and say, "You've got a degree in history of art." And I go, "No idea." So I just go Rembrandt, and it's usually right. So I did that, but I joined the Drama Society day one, and I just did plays all the time that I was at university. Yeah. I finished that, and then took a year off, and then I went to the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School for 2 years, and at the end of that, I did the Carlton Hobbs Award, which is a thing that the BBC run for budding voice actors, and I was lucky enough to win that, and that gave you an equity card and 6 months on the Radio Repertory Company and £30 a week, which was not very much. It went up to 50 after a bit, so we were. So that was a good intro because that got me into the kind of the voice scene, and so then I was able to get a voice agent, and then I was earning lots of money doing voice commercials and all things radio, which is great, because then you were going off and doing theatre and being paid nothing, but you were earning money doing voice work. The whole other side of it, which is my theatre and telly and film career, but from the point of view of I Know That Voice, what we're heading towards is the fact that I as a result of that, I auditioned for The Archers. That was in 1982. I thought that I had just nailed the audition and had lived with that feeling that I was just, brilliant. And that's why they cast me. And it was only very recently I heard a clip saying, "And here's David Archer." And I listened to it, God, I was young. I was like, oh, wait a minute. That's not me. That was a lad called David Karivic, who was the previous incarnation of David. And he sounds just like me. And I realised that I got cast because I was a voice match. And that's how I got the part. So thank you. Hats off to David Karivic, for sounding like me. Otherwise,
good Lord,
yeah, my life would have been very different.
Does that change your whole attitude to the job now?
No, no, we're all realists, aren't we? You get an idea, and you think the bee's knees, and then you find out that other people can do it too. I've just been directing some dubbing. I had 4 months of doing this Norwegian television series, and it's my first ever dubbing directing job, and I'd always thought I was really hot stuff at lip sync. No, every single person who came into that booth and did it, they were terrific. They were just as good. And I went, oh, okay, eat humble pie, mate. No.
So, yes, because presumably not only David Archer, but you've done hundreds of other things. I mean, that's your main known voice. Also, weren't you the Piccadilly line or something?
I was, yeah. I was Mind the Gap. Yeah, Mind the Gap on the Piccadilly line for about 12 years. I was, yeah. They saw me coming. Yeah. That was a £200 buyout. That was 200. Oh, yes. Yeah, 200 quid buyout. That was.
Oh God, people think we earn so much money, don't they? And then you just,
Even if it had been 500 quid buyout, I'd have been happy. But no, I thought at the time 200 quid, for Mind the Gap. How long are you got me for? Oh, about 10 years. Oh, great. Thanks. Thanks, agent.
Minus commission, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
And your other career, you've done quite a lot of TV too, I suppose.
Yeah, I have. I mean, it's the nature of the beast. I think the awful thing is really it's down to who's your agent. Because when I was younger, and I had a really powerful agent, and I was I was doing television series, and I was, never off the screen, and a little bit famous, and I thought this was normal. And films and everything. And then that agent, actually, it was, I think, alcoholism that got to him. And then I went to another one who was very good as well, and it continued to be really good. And then next agent, I'm not going to name names, but the next agent was sort of all right. And so I then went from being stuck neatly playing leading parts to playing kind of middling parts. And then she retired to spend more time with her horses, and then we were all sort of thrown to the to the wind.
Yes.
And my present agent is lovely and gorgeous and great, and I really like them, and I don't want to leave and everything, but they haven't got the clout that previous agents have, and so therefore, what with age, now that I'm an old man, it's less. But on the other hand, I mean, I'm still doing lots of voice work, and do lots of computer games. I do dubbing, I do ADR, and the odd bit of telly comes along here and there, and so I'm still earning all right.
And you love it, presumably, the voice stuff.
I do, and I've kind of given up theatre. I did a thing called Brexit, which was about 6 or 7 years ago, at Edinburgh, and I was that was the lead part. I was the Prime Minister, and it was an hour long, and it was very good and very successful. And I finished, and I'd been, I was up there for a month, away from home, in a little flat on my own. And the other thing was that because it was at lunchtime, you couldn't do the normal actor thing of going out and getting hammered every night,
of course.
And then getting over the hangover in the morning, and then getting yourself together and going on in the evening. I couldn't, because it was essentially going on at breakfast time. We went up at 12 o'clock, so I had to be good, and had to go to bed early and not get hammered and all that. So it was boring, and I got bored, and also standing in the wings every night and going every day, as it were. And going, I'm nervous, I don't want to forget the lines, and it's that fear of drying that was all right when you were younger, and I'm still, I can still remember it all, but the fear of drying had got to the point where I wasn't enjoying it, I was just scared. And also, there are certain actors which, I totally get this, and I was like that when I was younger, the idea of going, the West End run of 9 months, and you go on every single night, you want to better it, you hone it, and you tweak it, and you kind of, I've got to laugh on that one. And I get that, but actually what I prefer doing is improv. What I prefer doing is making it up. And my wife, when I was rehearsing this play, Brexit, and we were rehearsing in London, and I was coming home every night, she said, I haven't seen you so happy for years. And it was because it was a new play and we were creating it, we were inventing it. And I realised that that's the process that I like best. And, doing ADR stuff where you're just making it up, you're inventing and improving. And then with doing telly, you've learned the lines and you come on set and there's your fellow actor who you haven't met. This is if what I'm doing now, which is, kind of small parts here and there. I've had some nice stuff in the last 4 years. I mean, I did this thing with Steve Coogan about Jimmy Savile, and that was just one scene, and it was great. And there was Coogan being terrifyingly brilliant. But you go, hello, Mr. Coogan. How are you? Blah blah blah, and you do your bit, and you do it, on the wide, and then you do a mid shot, and then you do a close up, and then he does his mid shot and his close up, and so you only do it sort of 6, 7, 8 times. And then you're done, and then you move on to something else. And I love that. I love making it up. I love the, just doing it off, just creating it, rather than repeating. So
I mean, it's like that, isn't it, in voice world?
Yeah, and voice.
Yes, it's not off the page.
You don't have to learn anything.
No, you don't have to learn anything.
You have to take it off the page. That's the nice thing.
Yes.
There's the script, and you have to make it sound like you've just thought of it, and that's the skill, and that's what I really love, and that's what I've done for 43 years now as David, is that thing of making, picking it off the page and making it sound like you're out in in the field with the tractors and the cows and all that, and
because it's never on location, is it? The Archers. Have you ever done any on location? It's always been in the studio.
One in 43 years. We did one at a farm show once.
Okay.
And yeah.
And that because you said you don't like repetition, but presumably doing David Archer, it doesn't get boring because you're not doing the same thing over and over. It's a new script every day, isn't it? Yeah,
it's. I mean, it's a new script. You only, you read it before you get there. You do the read through in the green room, and then you go in and you do it, rehearse it on mic, and then you do a take. And sometimes, if there's stuff for time, they'll take the rehearsal. And there have been times where people have been late or not turned up, or we have to do it and we haven't had a read through. So I have actually done scenes in The Archers where what you heard was the first time I'd said it, which I love.
Yeah, that's often the best one anyway.
Yeah,
there's so many times, and every voiceover has this story of it goes to 15 takes, and they go, "Oh, we'll use the first one."
So many times. Yeah.
Because it's the spontaneity of it.
Yeah.
And if you know the character particularly, you're going to do it. It's going to come out.
I mean, I know David so well, to the extent that I do. We all of us say sometimes, my character wouldn't say that really, because you get new writers coming in who don't know you that well, and you go, doesn't sound. Can I tweak this, please? And then they say, of course you can. So you do all that.
It's fairly flexible.
Yeah,
on that level.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Did you think you were going to be doing that for 43 years when you started? No.
In a million years, I was on stage doing. I'll show you. You won't be hearing this, you people who are listening. I've just happened to get this out. That's on the back of my autobiography. That's me as the Pirate King in Pirates of Penzance at Drury Lane. And that was when I was second understudy to Tim Curry. And one day I turned up and they said, "You're on." And I hadn't rehearsed it because Chris Langham was the first understudy and he was not available that day. Yeah, so I'd done the movie before with Kevin Kline where we'd been pirates in the background miming to the New York cast. This was a zhuzhed-up version of Pirates Penzance, which had been done in Central Park, and it was, kind of very fast and kind of rocky and cool. And it's great. It's a great film. But they filmed it over here, and they'd all recorded it already, so we were just miming to that. And at the end of that, there's this choreographer called Graziella Daniele, who was this Argentinian ball of... And she said, "Okay, is there any of you who can sing? I've got a party in the West End show." They auditioned me to sing, and she laughed. She said, "Don't worry, Tim." She said, "We got backup singers in the wings.
Right.
We love your energy." So, there was me, 28 years old, 6'3", full of energy. And that's what got me here. So
fantastic.
so I turn up, and then suddenly I'm playing the lead in a West End musical, having had no rehearsal at all. I'd been through I knew the lines because I'd been listening to Kevin Kline singing them over and over and over again, so I knew the words. And I'd had one music call with the pianist and the musical director on the piano. And I'd watched the show out front once when they put a swing in from behind me, but that was it. And then I was playing the lead in the West End musical.
Fantastic.
And it was, absolutely the actor's nightmare. It's that
yes,
you're in the wrong place and you're naked on stage.
What's your? Do you have a favourite sort of thing to do? Is it all good for you? Do you enjoy the whole gamut of it, or is there a particular thing you love doing? Because you've got games, you've got radio, you've got corporates. Do you do audiobooks?
Yeah. Audiobooks is the hardest, as you know.
Yes.
It's the hardest work for the least pay. I mean, you have to prep it, then you have to do it, and then, practically always recently I've been doing it at home and then editing it myself because I do F and blind when I go wrong, and I don't want that to escape and kind of
No.
So I kind of edit it. Just in terms of fun... it is doing computer games. I'm a long-running character in a thing called Vermintide. I'm this character called Victor Saltzpyre. Victor Saltzpyre is basically a mixture of Ian McKellen and Kenneth Williams. And I've got this following in America. You know that thing where the Americans really love, sadistic Brits? They go mad for it. So I'm quite big in America as Victor Salzburg. And the lovely thing that I've done is that I put on my website, if you'd like to make a contribution to brain tumour charity, because my daughter-in-law had a brain tumour and luckily survived. So I've been trying to raise money for that. So in return for a contribution to charity, I'll do birthday wishes, and greetings and things like that, bespoke birthday wishes.
Right.
And what's lovely is it makes people so happy.
Yeah.
People go, I played this to my mate on his birthday, and because we play as Victor, in this game all the time. And you should have seen his face. He was crying with joy, and you think, oh man, that's worth it. That's really, really nice. That's what it's about. If you can make people really happy like that.
I get the same thing with the cartoons, the Octonauts and Thomas and Friends and all those, the big ones. I mean, because it's another thing that you must know this. You're doing this job. There's no contact here between you and the audience at all, and you go home, and you don't know what effect it has.
No idea at all.
At all. And then you remember when you were a kid, I suppose, when you were watching stuff. And the stuff that sticks in your head. And the reason I do this for a living is because I used to watch cartoons on telly or comedy shows. This is us now, right? We're in other people's heads.
We are, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got, the thing about being in the Archers. It's only when you go out and meet people. I mean, when I did my autobiography and I went and did a book tour, and then, so you stand up on stage and do an hour's chat, and then you try and flog your book, and then you're sitting there signing them. And these people come up and have their stories. And that's when you go, this really means a lot to people, because we are your family. That's the thing. If somebody's been listening to the Archers for 30, 40 years, there's a feeling like they know us as well as they know their family. And so when they come up and they look at me, and they never call me Tim, they go, hello, David. And they've met David. And it's a big, big thing. And I'm very aware of it, and we all are. And we're very aware of, you don't take that lightly, So when somebody tells you the same story that you've heard over and over again, I listen to it in the bath, and I've been listening to it since 1948. Everybody, all my friends know that when I'm listening to the Archers, they're not allowed to come and knock on the door, they're not allowed to come and disturb me. All of those. I've heard it, loads and loads of times. But every person, it's true for them. It's not a cliche. It's not that I've heard it before. So the worst thing in the world would be for me to say, I've heard that. I've heard that before. No, I don't. I mean it. I'm genuine about it. I say, oh, that's fantastic. How wonderful. What a great thing. Because otherwise, you'd be an arse, or uncaring, or not realising the fact that, I got a bloody MBE on the back of just turning up for my job. And I felt I didn't deserve it at all. All I did was turn up and say words into a microphone. I'm not a charity worker. I'm not the lollipop lady. I'm not the people who deserve this kind of thing. And I very nearly turned it down, but then I thought, actually, it'd be a bit churlish. I just thought it would be just... And it's not often that people say, well done, and I thought it would be really kind of rude to just go, no, thank you.
Also, just as a side issue, you have a title, don't you? I've got to mention that for people who don't know. Earl of Portland or something?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So the story is...
Just get it out of the way.
Get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Didn't always have a title. An old aristocratic family, and what we'd call is, rather than being nouveau riche, we were nouveau pauvre. So we had lost everything that our kind of richer ancestors had. That had all gone. So my pa was he was a talks producer at the BBC, and then he was a television commercial producer at J. Walter Thompson, and made such things as those older listeners will remember the Nimble balloon.
Yeah,
Nimble balloon. That was my pa.
Oh yeah,
and he was extremely good and very successful. Very badly paid, because he was never a person to kind of ask for a raise or kind of jump ship and go to someone else. He didn't get that at all. So he would never have any money. So he never had any money. But the opportunity arose to claim this title, which was my seventh cousin, the Duke of Portland, died. And without issue, well, he did have a son, but the son died before him. So the title then went all the way back, back. And in order to prove it, you have to go, let's have a look at the previous generation. Do they have any sons that could claim it, and you have to go and find all that out. So it took a long time to prove it, and then it went back to our the immediate ancestor, Hans Willem Bentinck, who came over with William of Orange at the Glorious Revolution, and then his son became the Duke of Portland. But he was the Earl, the first Earl. So he went back to the Earl of Portland and went to his second marriage and came down to us.
Wow.
And so that's why my father became the Earl of Portland. And the reason he wanted it was because he was a great environmentalist, and he was way ahead of his time and on global warming and pollution and the whole thing. And he saw all this stuff that we're saving the planet, thing, way back in the 70s. And he wanted some way of getting it out to people. And this opportunity arose, but he had the opportunity to be able to stand up in the House of Lords and tell them. And he did. And it's there on YouTube if you look at the Earl of Portland's maiden speech. And it was the only speech he ever made because the poor bugger got cancer and died quite soon after that. Okay. But he did it, and it's there for posterity. And it was absolutely typical of the House of Lords. There was about 3 men and a dog in the chamber when he said it. But it was recorded, and he said it, and he did it. And I'm very proud of him. And then I then had a seat in the House of Lords, which was completely barking mad, because I'm a bit of a meritocrat, really. I just simply don't believe that by an accident of birth you've got any right to tell anybody what to do. On the other hand, there is another way of looking at it, which is to say that there is a thing called duty, where sons go, I don't want to be in the House of Lords, but I have to. So anyway, but I thought, well, what am I going to do? I mean, I'm David Archer in the Archers. What would happen if papers pick up, Lord Archer. Oh, haven't we got enough Lord Archers?
We got another Lord Archer, yeah.
Got another Lord Archer. So I kept my head down, basically. I mean, I turned up and I listened and I watched and I learned. I learned a lot, which I've used, in my career as an actor. But you get malauded, people call you malord, and it's not because you're on stage doing a Shakespeare, which is it's different. No. It's a different thing, and also the other thing is I knew that I was going to be thrown out because the Blair government said years before that it was going to happen. So I knew I hadn't got long. So there's no point in saying I'm now going to be a politician and not an actor. That wasn't going to happen, and I couldn't do both at the same time. Didn't want to, because politics isn't really my thing at all.
No.
But it was fascinating, absolutely.
I'm sure it was
fascinating being there, seeing the corridors of power, seeing those people and listening to their conversations and all of that. It was a real eye-opener. It was great. And the legacy of it is that I'm still got a badge, which is for what's known as the tops, with the turfed-out peers. So I am allowed to take you to lunch at the House of Lords.
That's very nice. Yeah. That's very nice, Tim. Can we make a date?
Yeah, sure, man. Absolutely.
I suppose one of my main reasons for doing this is I'm trying to gauge everybody's opinions and attitudes to what's going on now, how everything's in flux now, because we've had a long period of as voice actors of it being fairly stable. Yeah, you just were working.
Yeah.
And if you were lucky enough to be in there, particularly if you got in when you got in, or I got in a bit later than you, but it was a good period.
Yeah.
And now it's all in flux, and I wanted to gauge people who've been working in the industry and who are fairly well known, what their attitude to it is.
Well, as you quite rightly say, it's all changed. When I started off doing voiceovers, it was a very small pond, and we were big fish in a small pond, and there was only a small number of people who were really doing it. And we just kept working. I was working almost every day, and it was fantastic.
Yes.
And the thing is that I've always traded on having a kind of, as it were, accentless accent, in that it's RP. It's not posh. It's that it's standard English, and so it doesn't offend anybody. And that was true when we were younger. That was the kind of the BBC received pronunciation. It's just that's a straight accent. And what happened was, you remember the equity strike?
Oh, I do remember that very well.
Okay, so the story of that I and I'll let a name out here, because apparently it was him. You remember N. Reitel?
Oh, absolutely, I know the story. Yes, but you tell it. You tell it.
Apparently, some big advertising producer read a thing in the newspaper where N said, I earn so much money that sometimes I can't get in the front door for the checks lying in the other side of the door.
Yeah.
And this guy said, why are we paying these people so much money? The office boy could do it. So they said, we're not going to pay you that money anymore. We'll get the office boy to do it. Now, this coincided with the kind of like a shift in what people were wanting to listen to, because we'd always traded on selling things with a sale type voice. So if something was really good, you'd say it was really good. You know, it was cheesy stuff. We did all those cheesy things. Then what happened was that you got like the back of the class, you know, like the kid who doesn't like working because it's not cool to stand up and say, I know what's going on. Who's being cool, you know, it's the cool voice. And it's not cool to go, please sir, I know the answer to that. That's not cool, man.
Yeah.
So you came across this voice which sounded like it was being read on purpose. It got falling cadences. You just pick up a piece of paper and read what is on the piece of paper in front of you without any performance or any meaning or any keenness at all. It doesn't matter to me. And the perfect example of that was an advert for, it was a phone company. I don't know which one it was. And the tagline was brilliant, which was, use it, don't use it, it's your call. Right?
All right. Yeah.
Very nice, very cool strapline. And it went out, and it was the T-Boy, and he went, use it, don't use it, it's your call. And that's what caught on. And suddenly us, you know, middle class nice chaps, weren't doing that kind of voiceover anymore, and it got less and less and less. And so then then you go off into doing narrations and doing corporate stuff and doing audio books and doing cartoons and doing video games and all the other stuff. But in terms of radio and TV commercial voiceovers, that's when it started to go.
Yes, the other thing was we weren't a closed shop anymore. That was the other big thing.
Absolutely. Suddenly, everyone said, I remember somebody saying, the equity strike, that was a market opportunity. Yeah. And us Mugginses who went, I'm with the union, all went, okay, well, you're not working then, mate.
And the irony of this, I remember at the time, was that all they had to do was pay what was agreed in the pact contract. I remember they were paying us double the hourly fee that was in the pact contract.
Oh, really?
If they'd have just paid the agreed fee, it would have halved the amount of money they paid us overnight. And none of it would have happened. But the closed shop thing was the big thing, because we couldn't withdraw labour. That was what killed it, I think. Was that the combination of what you said and the closed shop.
And also COVID did the other thing. I remember during COVID, the number of people who said, I've always been a chartered accountant, but I've always fancied this acting game. People tell me I've got a lovely voice. And so everybody and his mother suddenly got a microphone and was sending off tapes, you know, and every now and again that had hit. And, you know, you go, well, you know, some of you can, perfectly all right, I don't care. But, you know, my attitude towards it has always been, nothing lasts forever. It's the same thing with the Archers.
Right.
You know, I'm not doing as many Archers episodes as I used to. And I got a bit depressed and sad about that. And then I thought, well, you know, you can't count on anything. So I put my foot in the door of doing dubbing directing, which is I've been doing recently, which I completely love, and also doing adaptions for dubbing as well. So you take there's the English, and you've got to put it in somebody speaking Norwegian, and you've got to make that fit into their mouth, and the English won't, and so you have to change the English. And you know, put different words in, turn it round, they will shorten it, all that, and make it fit. And it's an art. I love it because it fits me perfectly. Because I did modern languages at school, did French and German and English. And then I've always been a geek, you know, with the computer. So because I do it on Pro Tools, and I've been doing dubbing for about 30 years now. So I know what I'm doing on the dubbing front as well. So I've got three parts of me that combine into a new job. To get a new job at the age of 72, is great. I love it. It's really,
that's
really
fantastic. I've been getting an awful lot of negativity about AI, particularly.
AI is very, very much a thing, and you've got to take. I mean, I'm actually using AI to do my adaptions, because you can sit there and go, what's another way of saying that phrase? And you can think it through, and you sit back, and half an hour later you go, oh, I know, I could do that. You use ChatGPT, just ask it, and it comes up with 10 alternatives to how you could say that phrase, and one of them you go, oh, maybe I could use that bit. And my son has just been made redundant, and he's looking at what I'm saying to him, and he agrees. Mate, get into AI, because otherwise, if you can't beat him, join him. If you're not, the AI companies are going to be the ones that survive. It is so powerful, AI.
Yes.
And, you watch the programs about it, just watch YouTube things about what it can do. It is beyond just predicting the next word, which is, what these large language models are, predicting the next word. But it's so much more sophisticated than that. And it has become kind of intuitive and almost to the point where you feel that it's got a conscience.
Wow.
It's consciousness, sorry. That's only going to get better and better and better. And it's got to the point, I put a thing up on my website as well to as a comparison about cloning your voice. So I went to this company, cloned my voice, did a text-to-speech program, and then made it speak a paragraph of an audiobook that I'd done. So then I got the audiobook recording, put that up, there's me, and then this is my clone voice doing the text-to-speech. Can you tell the difference? And the answer is, yes, you can. But only just. And this is 2025, and it is not going to get any worse. It's going to get better, and it will. And I stood up at an equity meeting something like 6 years ago and said this, and they just laughed at me. And I went, you've no idea what you're talking about. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I was going, no, I know what I'm talking about, and you don't. And this is going to get to the way. If I were a young student now coming out of drama school, I would not rely on the idea of being an audiobook narrator as a job, because I really don't think, because they'd say, oh, you can't do the subtlety, you can't do the, all the stuff that we think is completely and utterly unique to our ability to be able to tell a story. All of that could be replicated in AI now. And it is only going to get better and better at it, and it is a terrible indictment. I'm glad I'm an old geezer. I really worry about young writers. I think, but that's the point about it. You think about computers. Have they got any worse? You go back to the Wright brothers. Did they think that was it would be on the moon in whatever it was, 50 years time?
Yeah. And it is an interesting conversation, and it's a good one to have, because if you're on because another thing about being a VO, a lot of this is on your own. And if you're in your own headspace and you're doing your own thing all the time, reading about this stuff can be terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's good to have the discussion.
Yeah.
Kind of why I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
Because I needed some other people to say it, to talk about it, and not just sit there saying, oh, my God, it's terrifying, and banging your head against a wall.
No, I know. And I mean, as I say, I'm using it for doing the adaptions for the dubbing, but you can't use it to do a voiceover. The only thing you can do is to say, to license your cloned voice, because and I mean, I get fooled. Listen to YouTube videos and there's a narrator, and I'm listening because I'm interested in the subject, and suddenly he says something completely with the wrong intonation, and I go, oh my God,
and you go, oh, it's fake.
It's fake, but it's not real. And it makes me so angry.
And the thing is, we are, as you say, quite older. But those people that are coming up, as we came up with television and whatever, and our grandparents were going, how can you watch this?
Yeah.
We're doing the same thing. If you're not careful, because they will look at it, they won't tell the difference. They won't know any different.
No, they won't. We need to become influencers, Keith. That's what we need to do.
Well, what a good idea.
Yeah, that's the thing to be, to aspire to, is to be an influencer.
What would we influence people to do, Tim?
I've got a very dirty mind, Keith. You don't want to go down that sort.
Yes, this is a yes. Okay, well, this is an online radio station and a podcast.
Yes, I
think I can get away with quite a bit if you promise to wear your ermine.
Yeah, okay. That is true. That is one thing. You don't get AI lords, will you? No.
Maybe they'd do a better job. Maybe it'd be better to have politics run by computers.
That is a can of worms that really is quite possibly true. That would work better because it would be better at it,
and it wouldn't be emotional.
No, exactly. It wouldn't come at it. Come with all the baggage that people come with.
Remember hearing this program about cars, automatically driven cars, self-driven cars, and somebody said in about 20 years' time or whatever, we'll wonder why people ever drove cars. They'll say, what your Uncle John with his anger management issues and his alcohol problems was in that car,
Exactly. No, it's very true. It is. And already, I mean, the statistics prove that, self-driven cars are safer than human-driven cars. And the thing is that when that one that's had, million miles of completely safe driving makes one mistake, and kill somebody, then they pull the plug on everything. But you don't pull the plug on driving cars when somebody kill somebody because
No.
they're driving. You know?
No.
So, yeah.
No, it's like anything. It's like get food poisoning.
Yeah.
You're not going to get rid of food.
No, exactly.
You know, it's just that was a bad oyster or whatever it was. You know.
Yeah.
But thank you, Tim. This has been a pleasure.
Real pleasure. Thank you
And
very much for asking
informative
me.
and interesting. And I'll have fun editing this one.
Yeah, keep it tight. Take my waffles out. You know.
I Know That Voice is produced and presented by me, Keith Wickham, and my guest in this edition was Tim Bentinck, aka David Archer in The Archers. Waffles removed. I'll be back again with another edition of I Know That Voice very soon. Bye.